I supported Willow for 3 whole years. I poured endless resources into her, took her from a complete nobody to one of the hottest names in the industry. And yet, the day I visited her film set, she shamelessly ditched work to hook up with the male lead in a hotel. When I caught her red-handed, not only did she show no remorse, she actually blamed me for restricting her freedom, claimed her success had nothing to do with me. Right then and there, she had her so-called awakening, immediately signed with a female-only agency, vowing to join the girls in taking revenge on me, the pathetic, self-important man who had held her back. But little did she know, while these fake fairy-like girls were convinced I'd act like the typical male lead in their dumb romance dramas, desperately simping for her and begging her to come back, I did the exact opposite. I cut her off brutally, without hesitation, because I, George Wong, never let betrayal slide. And this agency full of fake fairies? I'll make sure they go down in flames. Chapter 01. The day I went to visit the film set, my girl Willow ditched work and was caught having sex with a male actor in a hotel. When the intimate photos were delivered straight to me, everyone on set watched my reaction in anxious silence, but I didn't even flinch, because my attention had already been stolen by a young woman in the corner who looked somewhat like Willow. It was mealtime on set, and a cafeteria auntie gave her an extra chicken leg meatball. She smiled with her eyes and gave the kind of bright, genuine smile that catches you off guard. I asked thoughtfully, "Who's she?" George Wong, the man in charge of the Wong family empire, has always had a soft spot for beautiful women. If a pretty face catches my eye, I tend to be a little more forgiving. Sometimes I even hand out resources and opportunities without a second thought. But ever since Willow came into the picture, that kind of thing had happened far less frequently. Still, my reputation is no secret. The director's eyes lit up slightly and answered right away. "She's Mrs. Liu's stand-in. Her name is Anna." I gave a small nod. "Since Willow's not here, shoot the other scenes first. How's Anna's acting?" The script supervisor pulled up a laptop and showed me some of Anna's audition clips. She moved with grace, full of natural charm. Her performance was a delight to watch. I glanced at my assistant David. He'd been with me for years and knew exactly what I liked. Without me needing to say more, he whispered a few words to the assistant director. The frozen tension on set suddenly thawed. The whole place became lively again, as if the disruption caused by Willow's sudden strike had never happened. Anna was called to step in. Even from a distance, the radiant girl seemed surprised, looking up and meeting my gaze with uncanny precision. Those eyes, bright and clear like autumn water. She smiled at me, so beautiful, it made my heart skip a beat. Chapter 02. Anna was brought to the Stars Entertainment by David. It was one of the tallest buildings in the city, 100 floors in total. The entire top floor was mine. As they ascended in the elevator, I had just finished a video conference and was staring out the window, lost in thought. It was a clear day, not a cloud in sight. A few thin files lay on my desk. Anna's profile. Within 30 minutes of me showing interest, every detail of her life had landed in my hands. Anna grew up in an orphanage. She used to do well in school but dropped out for unknown reasons and started working as a background extra. She had some training in physical movement, so she often served as a body double in scenes where the female lead's figure was highlighted. I watched some of her audition footage. Though she had no formal acting education, Anna had an innate charm and a natural presence in front of the camera. But this industry is overcrowded. Talent alone isn't enough to break through. Take Anna, for instance. After years in the business, she remained unnoticed. Being Willow's exclusive stand-in was the most prestigious line on her resume. To be honest, her looks were outstanding. Photos didn't do her justice. Although she did resemble Willow to a degree, her aura was completely different. In real life, no one would ever mistake them for the same person. I assessed her investment value. Final verdict, S+. The last person I rated that highly was Willow. Chapter 03. I supported Willow for 3 years. From an unknown rookie to a blazing hot celebrity, I poured endless resources into her rise. Willow had a face you couldn't forget, gorgeous and seductive, like a blossom in full bloom. But her thin lips and cool, aloof eyes gave her a proud air, as if she were born to be worshipped. Everyone in the industry said I was deeply infatuated with Willow. After all, as the head of the Wong family, I had always kept my image clean. No scandals, no women. Willow was the only exception, and she knew it. I never denied it. To me, love or not, it didn't matter. As long as what she wanted stayed within reason, I was willing to give it to her. Many in power have their unspeakable vices. My parents once told me, the higher you stand, the freer you become. There are countless ways to relieve pressure. My way has always been simple. I appreciate beauty. It's human nature to love beautiful things, and I've always been honest about it. Willow had exactly the kind of beauty I liked. From the very first glance, she captivated me. I was always busy, almost all my time tied up in work. I barely had any emotional bandwidth left. let alone for multiple women. So all these years, there had only been Willow, partly because I hated trouble, partly because I was picky to the point of obsession. Willow wasn't exactly gentle or considerate. She had her little tempers, but that was fine. For a face I liked, I was willing to be more tolerant, more indulgent, but at the end of the day, I'm a businessman, not a charity. I had high hopes for Willow, and she didn't disappoint. She brought the company returns far beyond what I invested. As for now, I was simply disappointed. Disappointed that the girl who once looked at me with eyes full of dreams, like a galaxy sparkling behind them, now chose to drown herself in sweet nothings and hollow romance. Tossing aside her work like it was nothing, she brought an entire production to a halt, forcing others to pay the price for her selfishness. That crossed my line. I never give second chances. Back on set, David had asked how to handle the matter. I gave a short, firm order. Suppress it. Deduct any extra PR fees from her paycheck. Also, isn't Willow's contract almost up? Start pulling back her endorsements and production resources. The Stars doesn't keep freeloaders. If she can't do the job, then someone else will take her place. Chapter 04. When Anna knocked and stepped in, it was only as she drew closer that I noticed a faint beauty mark beneath her eye. Her lips were full and glossy, her features softer than Willow's. She didn't have that same arrogant, haughty air. Instead, there was a calm warmth in her demeanor. She was slightly taller than Willow, probably thanks to her love for fitness. Her figure was tall and curvy, elegant in every sense, though simply dressed. Her aura made her seem like a fallen heiress from a noble family, and yet her eyes always carried a hint of a smile, the kind that immediately gave you the feeling this person had a peaceful soul. When she saw me, Anna paused for a brief second, barely noticeable, but the smile in her eyes slowly deepened, as if she'd just encountered something that genuinely made her happy. Her emotions were contagious. "Good afternoon, President Wang," Anna greeted politely. I offered no explanation as to why she had been called in, nor why this sudden meeting was happening. I got straight to the point, sliding a file across the table. "You haven't signed with any agency yet," I said. "This is a contract. Within the Stars, artists were ranked by level. This was a Category B contract. For someone like Anna, a complete unknown, this contract was unusually generous." But Anna didn't even glance at it. Her eyes went straight to a different folder beside my hand, a black one. She smiled slightly and asked, "Is that the second option? Can I choose that one instead?" Smart and bold, I responded with a question of my own. "Do you know what my relationship with Willow is?" She took a moment to think, lips pressing together lightly. "She's your woman," she answered. Everyone knew I was Willow's backer. Anna didn't wait for me to speak, and followed up with, "If I sign that one, do I become your woman too?" Her bluntness caught me off guard. I looked at her, slightly puzzled. Anna had a pair of eyes that were impossibly clear, like untouched skies before pollution ever touched them. What she said could easily be misunderstood. And yet there was no flirtation in her tone. I stayed silent for a moment, then said more gently, "Anna, I don't like forcing anyone. I was never stingy with giving opportunities to beautiful women, but that never meant I had ulterior motives." That one smile from Anna had genuinely moved me. So this contract, it was simply a generous gift, no strings attached. Chapter 05. The reason the Stars has remained unshakable over the years is tied to a core habit shared by every president who has held power here: self-reflection. We constantly review the moments when things didn't go as planned, to understand why, to correct course. That's how we stay sharp, with things between Willow and me deteriorating the way they have. I allowed myself a brief moment of reflection, wondering if I had made a mistake. Maybe I gave Willow the wrong idea, made her think that if she ended things with me, I'd retaliate by blacklisting her. Maybe that's why she went behind my back and got involved with someone else. But the truth is, I've never cared for forced possession. As the CEO of the Stars, I'm surrounded by people trying to win my favor, countless women throwing themselves at me. More than a few have offered their beds as shortcuts, but I'm busy. Far too busy to waste time fighting over a woman. Even if Willow had been a great companion, even if we did share some genuinely good times, I'd seen so many sides of her: playful, sweet, angry, sad, joyful. Once, just to make her smile, I rented out an entire amusement park and set off a private fireworks show just for her. She'd accompanied me to countless formal events, officially acknowledged as my only partner with my tacit approval. In our most intimate moments, she would wrap her arms around my neck, touch her nose to mine, whisper my name, call me Gidge, a term only someone deeply attached would use. But now, in the photo taken today without her knowing, she clung to a man whose face was blurred, completely naked, kissing him with glazed eyes, limbs entangled. That was a side of her I had never seen before. Willow used to be a terrible liar. Her cheeks would flush the second she tried to deceive me, I could see through her in an instant, but now, years later, she could lie to my face without blinking. Today, when she said she was sick, she was actually in a hotel room with someone else. The stars has eyes everywhere. I knew her whereabouts in real time. Even those indecent photos were delivered to me within minutes. And yet, I quietly tucked them away. Cleaned up her mess. Made sure the media never got a whiff of it. Not out of any lingering feelings. She was still one of my signed artists. A scandal would damage the company's reputation. I knew she had developed real feelings for Makoto, the male lead from her previous drama, the one she'd been shipping herself with for months. I'd noticed her distraction, her emotional detachment. It's human nature. People change. I didn't take it personally. I simply decided to treat her like any other employee from that point on. She had been the one to fight for a place by my side. I had just gone along with it, and I had no issue letting it end. What I didn't expect was how far things had already gone between her and Makoto. Today's set visit had been a last-minute decision. I had just returned to the country and finally settled everything around me. Not seeing her there, and then discovering all of this, it caught me off guard, annoyed me, slightly, but that's all it was. Breach of contract should come with consequences. I don't force anyone. If she's unwilling, I'll simply replace her. Chapter 06. Anna looked at me for a few seconds without saying a word. There was something in her eyes, an emotion hard to define, like sunlight dancing on the surface of a calm lake. Shimmering and full of life, she had stunning eyes, gently arched, sincere in their gaze. As if she had chosen to look only at you, beautiful beyond words. I was momentarily distracted, broke my own rule and offered a rare explanation. If you choose to sign this contract, you'll have a solid future at the stars. But to my surprise, she smiled, not out of mockery or arrogance. She was genuinely happy. She blinked and said, "President Wang, if I become your person, you're actually the one who's getting the short end of the stick." Flattery, no matter how empty, sounds like music when spoken by someone so beautiful. With her lips gently curved, she added, "After all, George is the crown jewel of the stars, a business legend. Perfect." She was more tactful than Willow, and frankly, even more aligned with my aesthetic preferences. I stayed quiet for a few seconds, then slid the black folder toward her. An S+ contract, equal to what Willow once had. Of course, after what happened, I'd added far more restrictive clauses. Anna didn't even glance through it. She flipped straight to the last page and signed her name with a few crisp strokes. I reminded her, "You can have a lawyer look it over." Anna smiled, eyes curving gently. "No need. I don't really have anything worth being cheated out of," she added. "And besides, President Wang wouldn't deceive me." It felt like a feather had brushed across my heart. I'll admit it. I was pleased again. Chapter 07. By the time I wrapped up work, the moon was already hanging high in the sky. I took Anna to one of my villas. This area was quiet and highly private. I had bought the property just last year. Willow had never been here. Anna had to wear disposable slippers for now. I told her to register her fingerprints in the system. This place hasn't had any other visitors. If there's anything you need, tell the housekeeper. He'll take care of it. She nodded seriously, looking oddly happy. I asked, "What is it?" She replied, "Southwest, this place is yours, and now, it'll just be for you and me, right?" She knelt down to help me change shoes. Tilting her head up, her features refined and stunning. Her blouse, crisp white silk, framed her figure elegantly. Looking up, she was pure and youthful. Looking down, the view was distracting. I didn't catch a word of what she said. I simply followed instinct, looked down at her slightly open collar, and said, "Stop using honorifics with me from now on." She smiled at me again, that same unreadable, soft-eyed expression, wet and glimmering like a kitten's gaze. She said, "Okay." Anna was born for this line of work. When her fingers gently kneaded my shoulders, my mind started to drift. The room was quiet, the only sound being fabric under her touch. Warm, dim lighting. Her pressure was perfect, sleep-inducing. She half knelt beside me. From the moment we met, this was the first time I saw something like doubt or nervousness in her expression. "I don't have any experience," she said softly. Her cheeks were tinged pink. "I'm afraid you won't like it." I was just about to reassure her. Honestly, even when Willow wasn't exactly cooperative, I hadn't cared much. Just looking at her face had been enough. But then, Anna tied up her hair and lowered her head. She whispered, "So I want to try something else first. Is that okay?" I didn't say no. That silence was my permission. Her lips were warm and soft. The temperature in the room began to rise. The air grew hazy, like I'd fallen into a fragrant hot spring. At first, Anna kissed awkwardly, clumsy, unsure. She froze a few times, maybe afraid of hurting me. Completely stiff. Her medical report had already been reviewed by my secretary. Clean, healthy, no history of illness. The documents showed she'd never dated anyone, barely had male friends. I'd asked her, half curious, if it was her first kiss. She nodded, and then earnestly promised, but I learned fast. And now, after experiencing her lips and tongue in a far more immersive way, I finally understood just how fast she could learn. Her progress was astonishing, addictive, so much so that I didn't even notice my phone vibrating beside me. The screen lit up. Incoming call, Willow. Chapter 08. When Willow called me for the 6th time, I finally picked up. I asked, "What is it?" She shot back, "What are you doing? Why aren't you answering your phone?" Willow was clearly oblivious to the fact that she'd been secretly photographed. Well, of course, she was wrapped up in her sweet little romance with Makoto. Who could get a hold of her like that? Her agent had been sick recently, and her assistant only dared to inform me about it first. There was a hint of displeasure in her voice over the phone, but she quickly laid her intentions bare. She said, "George, wasn't the lead female role in Director Jin's The Moon supposed to be mine? Why haven't I even received a casting call?" The Moon is the kind of show aiming straight for awards, and conveniently, Anna needed a Best Newcomer title. I had assigned Martin, our company's top agent, to Anna. He'd just returned to the stars after medical leave. Martin is incredibly efficient. That very afternoon, he laid out a full career plan for Anna for the next year, listing several fitting roles, including this one by Director Jin. Willow had been eyeing that lead role for a long time. After all, she'd always been cast in idol dramas, and now she wanted to shift into more serious productions. But since it suited Anna better now, I simply gave the audition opportunity to Anna. Anna had probably overheard, but she was obedient. Even now, without a word from me, she just kept going. I said, "Because I gave it to someone else." My tone was casual, indifferent. "Come," I said. "Willow, are you questioning me right now?" She went silent for a few seconds, as if realizing something wasn't right, and tried to soften her tone with a bit of sweetness. "George, you know I've been preparing for this role for a long time. I've been sick, so I've been a little irritable. Don't be mad at me, okay?" Honestly, I couldn't even hear what Willow was saying, because my fist suddenly clenched, and I let out a muffled grunt. Willow's voice came to an abrupt halt. There was dead silence on the other end of the line. Several seconds passed before she finally spoke again, her tone no longer steady. She asked, "What are you doing?" But I didn't have the time, nor the energy, to respond. The call was ended. At some point, the phone had slipped into the gap of the sofa, and in the next instant, the whole world erupted out of the silence. Chapter 09. I've always been a light sleeper, but that nap was unusually deep. I felt surprisingly refreshed. When I arrived at the office, David reported, "Miss Liu has been waiting for you here." I was a little surprised, then frowned and said, "I thought she had a schedule today." David paused for a few seconds, trying to stay objective, though his expression betrayed a hint of speechlessness. He said, "Alicia was hospitalized. Miss Liu tried to ask me for your address last night and, getting nowhere, went barging through your residence. Alicia said she couldn't stop her." I replied, "Don't tell Alicia about any of this for now. Let her focus on recovering." My expression cooled. "Bring her to the meeting room." Willow clearly hadn't slept all night. She usually pays great attention to her appearance, but today, her face was unwashed, her eyes bloodshot, her expression haggard, her clothes a mess. Her looks had taken a serious hit. I stared at her for 2 seconds and thought, she's gotten uglier. At least not as pretty as Anna was last night, and I've only ever had patience for beautiful people. Willow's eyes lit up when she saw me, but then she pressed her lips together, seemingly trying hard to suppress the fury that was on the verge of bursting out. Through clenched teeth, she struck first. "George, where were you last night? What were you doing? Why did you hang up on all my calls and not pick up?" I ignored her and simply tossed the thick stack of paparazzi photos from yesterday onto the table in front of her. Willow's voice cut off instantly. Her mouth opened slightly. Her face turned deathly pale as she stared fixedly at the explicit photos taken without her knowledge. Then, suddenly looking up, she spoke in a panicked and flustered tone, her voice low. "George, it's not what it looks like. Yesterday I cut her off. The PR team is already in talks with Penguin. Their plan is for you and Makoto to keep fanning the fake couple hype and then go public with your relationship." Willow was a top-tier actress I had personally brought to fame, while Makoto was a second-rate nobody. The man in the photos was blurry, but Willow's face was captured crystal clear. Makoto and Willow co-starred as the male and female leads in Sweetheart Contract, so pretending to be a couple for publicity was part of the job. But while I was abroad, the buzz around their ship had started to get suspiciously out of hand. David investigated. Most of the paid fan traffic came from Penguin. Penguin Entertainment was Makoto's agency. There's no way those photos weren't orchestrated by Penguin Entertainment. I don't buy it. Penguin stayed unusually quiet yesterday. They were watching to see how I'd react. After all, Everyone in the industry knows Willow is my person. Pulling something like this was nothing short of provocation. And yet, with the evidence right in front of me, I didn't lose my temper. And the stars simply suppressed the photos in silence. Penguin must be feeling triumphant today, ready to name their price. An actress who's gotten lost in her love life and abandoned her work. And yet, she just so happens to be a top star under the stars. Penguin is convinced that I'd grit my teeth, swallow the insult, and protect Willow. But they're wrong. What I hate most is being set up. If I could create one top-tier celebrity, I can create a second. In this world, no one is irreplaceable. Chapter 10. The office air conditioning whirred softly, but the person in front of me was breaking out in a fine, cold sweat. Willow's body was stiff as she half-crouched down. Looking up at me with an innocent face, she said, "George, I really was sick yesterday. I felt dizzy the whole time. Makoto came to see me, and I don't really remember much of it. But we didn't do anything. I pushed him away pretty quickly. I was afraid you'd misunderstand, so I hadn't figured out how to tell you yet," I said. "You were set up, Willow." She didn't really hear any of that. I was just stating the facts, coldly and briefly. Willow, who had been rambling explanations, instantly fell silent. She stared at me, as if trying not to miss even the slightest shift in my expression. In a trembling voice, she asked, "That's all you have to say to me?" I frowned and shot back. "What else do you want me to say?" Willow bit her lip and said, "You knew about it yesterday. Why didn't you react at all? We've been together for 3 years, and you don't even ask me why." But the moment she chose to start something ambiguous with Makoto, it was already over between us. I didn't need to know the story behind that choice, because from that point on, she had nothing to do with me. Willow should have understood this before. Every choice comes with a price, and explanations after the fact. In the end, they're all just empty words. I was a little puzzled, so I asked plainly, "What kind of reaction do you expect from me? Pain, jealousy, anger? Do you want me to demand answers from you?" She snapped, "You never cared about me. You're always like this." As if I'd struck a nerve buried deep in her chest, she bit her lip, suddenly stood up, and angrily shouted, "George, you treated me like a pet, like an object, a thing. Have you ever seen me as your equal? Do you even have feelings?" My fingers holding the coffee spoon paused for a moment. With Willow's emotions this intense, chances were she was speaking from the heart. She must have felt this way for a long time. Suddenly, I felt a bit absent-minded. Thinking back carefully, I couldn't even recall the emotion in her eyes that first time she came to me and looked up with a smile. Back then, her approach felt forced, her performance obvious. I had clearly seen through her little schemes, her determination to rise by using me, but I hadn't disliked it. In fact, I admired it. Opportunities only go to those who are prepared. And besides, not everything about Willow was fake. So was I angry and hurt when I found out? Yes, after 3 years together, day in and day out, it'd be a lie to say I didn't like her at all. But in George's life, feelings like liking never took up much space. More importantly, I was especially good at detaching from negative emotions and shaking off their effects quickly. Compared to the humiliation of being cheated on, what I felt far more was the displeasure of being disrespected. So I accepted her accusation and said calmly, "Willow, you give yourself too much credit. She and I were never equals, not in social standing, not in emotional dynamics. It had been that way from the very first day she started following me." Willow clearly understood what I meant. The emotion in her eyes shattered instantly. She stared at me in disbelief, hands tightly clutching the hem of her skirt, and even let out a bitter, self-mocking smile. But I no longer had the patience to watch her clumsy performance. The last trace of emotional turbulence faded. My tone turned even colder as I said, "Did you really think I wouldn't be this ruthless, that I'd go all out to win you back?" Willow's expression went blank for a moment. I'd hit the mark again. She had mistaken my indulgence as something she deserved. My generosity had become the very foundation of her confidence. I finally found it laughable. I said, "Just because I'm not chasing after you doesn't mean you'll walk away unharmed. Willow, I'm not a philanthropist," revoking all the privileges and resources she had at the stars. Knowing Willow, she'd soon be off looking for her next patron, and the best option now would be Penguin, already licking their chops, ready to sink their teeth into this prize. Everyone knew Willow had me backing her. If she defected to Penguin, it would be a blatant provocation. My father once taught me, the essence of power plays is making others fear that damaging your interests will inevitably harm theirs. So, when someone dares cross you, you must retaliate 1,000-fold, even if there's no immediate benefit to gain. Now that Penguin had stepped on my toes, I certainly wasn't going to let it slide. But my mother also taught me, when you stand at the top, a bit of grace goes a long way. Those who hold power must still win hearts. So I had no interest in destroying Willow outright. The board of the stars was filled with loyal allies and trusted elders I had personally placed. Essentially, my word was law. Penguin, on the other hand, was different. Sophia, the heiress of the Lin family, had just taken control. There were still several rival factions within the company, constantly scheming, competing for power, and elbowing each other out. After a disheartened Willow was escorted out by security and assistants, I lowered my gaze, lost in thought. A delicate metal spoon tapped lightly against my coffee cup. In the dark surface of the drink, a face with no expression stared back at me. A moment later, I let my lips curl into a faint smile. Those who covet what belongs to others must be prepared to pay the price. Sophia, if you can't keep Penguin in check, I won't mind taking it off your hands. Chapter 11. Everyone at the Stars knew Willow had fallen from favor. It might be hard to make someone a star, but shelving someone was the easiest thing in the world. Willow's treatment took a nosedive. Her schedules grew fewer by the day. She couldn't even get into my office anymore. In sharp contrast stood Anna. With the return of Martin, the company's top agent, assigned to handle just one newcomer, no one at the Stars was stupid. The moment they saw Anna's face, they understood. But Willow, who hadn't had any encounters with Anna, had no idea. No one warned her, because that would be asking for trouble. The only thing that surprised me was that Willow still hadn't reached out to Penguin Entertainment. They'd offered her a pretty generous deal. The contract was S-tier, with breach penalties fully covered. It was obvious they were desperate to sign her. So why had Willow stayed in the Stars, a place that was now clearly neglecting her? Was she waiting for a better offer? Or did she have another motive? I soon got the answer, because on the audition day for the Moon, Willow showed up uninvited. Though it was technically an audition, Anna was the candidate I had pushed forward. As long as she didn't mess up badly, the role was basically hers. Anna's scene was a fight sequence. Her eyes sparkled like stars, brows elegant as spring hills. Every movement highlighted her graceful form, and when she landed, her breathing remained calm and steady. As the biggest investor behind director Jin's production, the Stars and I had a close relationship with him. His eyes lit up as he watched, clearly in high spirits. He even teased me, saying, "With talent like this, President Wang, you didn't need to show up yourself. A single word from you would have been enough. You had me worried for half a month." I paused for a moment, suddenly realizing, it was true. I almost never came to the set, and I never attended auditions. Too much work, too little time. I frowned, thinking about why I came today. It was probably because I wasn't quite at ease. Also, Anna had asked me if I ever watched the dramas she acted in. Willow used to make all kinds of requests. This role, that project. Wanting to be famous wasn't a big deal, and I had always indulged her. But Anna never asked for anything. She only asked little, irrelevant things, like whether I watched her shows, or when I usually had free time to check my phone, because she just wanted to share interesting things with me, anytime, anywhere. The food on set, something fun that happened in class, a casual hello, so simple, never fake. She was so pure, she'd blush if you teased her a little, which made me wonder, how was it that someone like her could be bold enough to offer herself to me so easily the first time we met? Her social media was mostly food and scenery. When she wasn't working, she kept a regular routine. She never went clubbing or partying, and she never asked for much. She reminded me of a canary I once kept. She and Willow were two completely different people, so naturally, I treated her in two completely different ways. While I was still lost in thought, Anna, having changed out of her costume, walked over to me. The director's team had already tactfully walked away. Anna looked like she had something to say but instead just smiled at me. Her eyes curved and radiant, stunning and refined, full of grace. Success brings glow. Even though it had only been a short time since I started supporting her, she was already far more dazzling than before, like an uncut gem shaped by my own hand, now polished and glowing with elegance. Beautiful. I looked at the emotion in her eyes, genuine, untouched by pretense, and felt my breath hitch slightly. I lifted my hand and touched the faint beauty mark beneath her eye. "George," a familiar voice rang out behind me, full of resentment. The soft, hazy atmosphere shattered instantly. Willow stood behind me in a baseball cap, face full of indignation. Her gaze locked on Anna, her eyes filled with rapidly shifting emotions: shock, hesitation, confusion, realization, fury, jealousy, fear, until all of it turned into deep hatred and disgust. Willow curled her lips into a sneer and said, "So it's you. I remember you. That little stand-in, right? What now? Stand-in on set? Stand-in in bed too?" Her expression was twisted, her tone increasingly hysterical. I frowned, seeing no one with her. I guessed she'd snuck in. I looked down at my phone, planning to call someone to escort her out. I'd long lost any interest in talking to her, especially now that she was acting crazy. Anna responded calmly, "Miss Liu, your words are vile. President Wang's personal life has nothing to do with you. And besides, if the problem lies in yourself, don't blame others for seizing an opportunity." Willow snapped. "President Wang, wow, you sure know how to suck up." And you dare talk to me like that? What the hell are you even? Her face flushed red with anger, her tone dripping with sarcasm, her words becoming more and more outrageous. She bit her lip and spat. President Wang really doesn't have standards. Huh? All this time, you've been busy screwing her, right? A green tea bitch like her, probably sleeping her way to those roles. Who knows if she's already caught something nasty from outside. Bang. I slammed the folder hard into her face. My voice was icy. Willow, can't speak like a human being anymore. Or did I spoil you so much over the years that you actually think you're someone? Willow stared at me, covering her face, dazed and stunned. I looked up and said, I already called someone to take you back. Don't embarrass yourself out here. Her face turned pale. She trembled all over. In a voice full of disbelief and despair, she shouted, George, the stars gave all my resources to her, didn't they? Is that what this means? You don't want me anymore? Just because of her, you're completely done with me. Willow's real education level was middle school. Even before, communication with her wasn't always smooth. Sometimes I couldn't understand how her brain worked, but in this moment, I vaguely understood why she hadn't left the stars. She probably wanted to salvage our relationship. Isn't that laughable? My patience had finally run out, I said. This has nothing to do with Anna. You're being kicked out because you skipped work to sleep with another man, and were stupid enough to get caught on camera, damaging the company's image and interests. She suddenly stood up, chest heaving, her eyes burning with fury. She shouted incoherently, George, I didn't get famous because of you. Let me tell you, it's the stars that can't live without me, not the other way around. I'll be just fine without you. Just wait and see. The whole place fell silent. Security had arrived. I didn't bother sparing her another glance. I said, Get lost. Chapter 12. It wasn't until we returned to the villa that I realized Anna had been unusually quiet today, but the way she massaged my shoulders was still as gentle and meticulous as ever. I looked up at her and asked, Not happy? Although I had finally lost patience and stood up for her today, Willow's words were indeed harsh. It was only natural if Anna was feeling upset. Her fingers paused slightly. Under the lights, her pupils shimmered in a warm amber hue, soft, clear, and pure as flowing water. Anna said softly, No. I just think it wasn't worth it. I asked, What wasn't? She pressed her lips together and didn't answer. I understood and said, Willow has nothing to do with me anymore. If you want to curse her a little, it's fine now, she replied. But she was someone you used to like. I paused for a few seconds. Like? Back then, I did like her. Otherwise, why would I have chosen her alone, supported her so fully? But if something can be taken back so quickly, then perhaps it was never that precious to begin with. Anna suddenly crouched down beside me, raising her face close to mine. She said, President Wang. Her eyes were full of emotion I couldn't quite decipher, glistening and soft, like overflowing moonlight. I asked, What's wrong? I watched her trembling lashes. She said, I'm not dirty. Her voice was light and clear, but in this moment, it carried a hoarse edge. She said, I haven't been with anyone else. I'm very clean. Of course I knew that. I'd seen her medical reports. Her tone was casual, but something about it carried a subtle grievance. The official, detached response I had prepared caught in my throat. I leaned down and gently kissed her soft, moist lips. I didn't say a word. The temperature rose. Everything continued as usual. In our most intimate moment, those eyes of hers seemed to be saying 1,000 things. In her broken, whispery voice, I thought I heard her quietly asking, Did you do it for me? Do you still like her? If you don't like her anymore, could you spare just a little for me? But I wasn't sure if I heard her right, because she said, None of that matters. I instinctively asked, Then what does? She stayed silent. She didn't answer, and I didn't press further. Starlight blanketed the vast universe, and everything melted into the moonlit galaxy. Chapter 13. Willow officially terminated her contract with the stars. Penguin sent someone to negotiate the penalty fees. I didn't make it difficult. I let her go without a fuss. Alicia is technically a distant cousin, something like a third cousin. Despite being a pampered heiress, she's always been enthusiastic about being an agent, bold, loyal, and driven. She had given her all to managing Willow, always first to fight for resources. Who would have thought Willow would sneak off while she was sick, skip work to date, and now even jump ship to Penguin? Once Alicia got the full story, she shot up from her hospital bed, livid, and cursed Willow, that ungrateful snake, for 3 straight hours. By the time I went to visit her, she'd already shaken off any signs of illness and was so energetic she looked ready to storm over and beat Willow up. She ground her teeth and growled, President Wang, you just let that backstabbing idiot walk away like that. She gave up being the star's top actress to go get her blood sucked dry by Penguin, a sitting duck waiting to be gutted. She ought to donate her brain to science. And Penguin, those rats dare pull this dirty stunt right in front of us. I swear I'm gonna hang a protest banner outside Sophia's house. But the moment she saw my expression, she paused mid-rant and leaned in. Cousin, you've got a plan, don't you? I toyed with an orange in my hand and said, it's actually better that she's gone. Some things are hard to do while she's still at the stars. I was thinking, like the Willow and Makoto situation. The fallout from that would have tarnished the star's reputation. She asked, so what's the plan? Come on, tell me, I said. I had someone look into Penguin's and Willow's upcoming schedules. I spoke slowly and calmly. They're planning a big slate of IP adaptations, 5 historical dramas, 3 modern romances, 2 fantasy wuxia series, and 1 spy thriller, and we've got all the expected air dates. Alicia's eyes lit up instantly. This is what we call business warfare. No need for sinister tricks or sword fights in the shadows. In entertainment, it's all about numbers, shows and artists. Head to head, I said. I've reviewed the quality too. Not hard to beat. So we'll match Penguin title for title, genre for genre, and launch our shows in the exact same slots. Alicia gasped, then gave me a thumbs up. This is savage. Only you could pull this off. President Wong. I paused, then added. As for Willow, she's not that dumb. Penguin wants to suck her dry, but it won't be that easy. There's going to be infighting, sooner or later. Her mood visibly improved. She leaned in again, whispering curiously. Wait a second, I heard you've been mentoring a newbie lately. Anna. Right, so now it's not just the stars versus Penguin, but Anna versus Willow too. I answered flatly. Alicia caught on immediately and clicked her tongue. Then I'd say Willow doesn't stand a chance. If Anna rises stepping on Willow's back, she'll go absolutely mad, I replied calmly. Anna used to be Willow's stand-in. I need to stay a step ahead. If Willow dared to use that fact against her, I'd make sure she experienced what it meant to be utterly crushed. But Alicia's smile gradually faded. Her expression turned oddly thoughtful as she cleared her throat and said in a gossipy tone, Cousin, it feels like you're putting more effort into this one than the last. I asked. Really? I frowned slightly, paused to think for a moment, then said, maybe it's because Anna is more what? I hesitated. I wasn't sure how to describe it. Logically, in this industry, there's no such thing as someone truly clean, but Anna made me feel like she deserved to be protected. My phone suddenly buzzed twice. It was a photo from Anna, her beloved thermos. The surface was worn from use, but etched near the bottom, so small it was nearly invisible, were the initials of both our names. Before she had it customized, she told me, this way, no one will notice. I was confused. If you don't want anyone to notice, why bother engraving it? She just looked at me quietly. After a while, she lowered her eyes and said, but I still kind of want people to know. Always cheerful Anna seemed, just for a moment, to show a flicker of melancholy. I didn't know what complex feelings she was holding inside. All I could do was offer a simple reassurance. Then don't hide it. No one will say anything. She went quiet for a long time. Then her warm lips brushed against my fingers, and she whispered, I'm not good enough, so I don't want to be your stain. In that instant, a random trending phrase floated through my mind. If she's willing to care about me, that's good enough. And just then, meeting Alicia's sparkling eyes, I absent-mindedly finished the sentence I'd left hanging earlier. She's prettier. Lust clouds judgment. It must be because she's just too beautiful. Beautiful enough to mess with my head. Alicia was briefly speechless. Then she gave me a knowing look and said, got it. President Wong. Chapter 14. Penguin and Willow had a falling out. Faster than I expected, because Willow refused to promote Penguin's newcomers and wouldn't go public with Makoto. For a top-tier actress in her prime, playing along with promo events or fake couple marketing was one thing, but going official with someone, that was career suicide. But Penguin didn't care. They were determined to ride the wave. They wanted their tightly controlled Makoto to eat this piece of meat, no matter what. Infamy is still fame. In the age of monetized traffic, even if Makoto was getting cursed out by Willow's fans now, a few months down the line he could cry a little, play the victim, and use the drama to win loyalty. Willow's job hopping wasn't exactly glorious, and her fans didn't know the full truth, but they did know she was being sidelined by her new agency and having a rough time. After all, the resources Willow used to get from the stars were high quality and plentiful, but over at Penguin, they were stingy, hesitating to give her this or that, always holding back. Willow started nudging her fans to pressure Penguin, but Penguin played dead and stayed silent. At first, I wondered if they'd poached Willow just to keep her as a trophy, but I soon found out the real reason for Penguin's attitude. 1. Willow's refusal to cooperate had seriously pissed them off. 2. They were convinced that even after leaving the stars, I would still quietly provide her with resources. In Penguin's eyes, Willow had me wrapped around her finger. They thought I was like the brainless male leads in their cheap romance dramas, chasing after the female lead like a lovesick puppy. unwilling to see her suffer and secretly shielding her from the shadows. When I first heard this rumor, I found it absurd, until David said to me, "President Wong, since Penguin changed CEOs, the entire exec team has been women." I was speechless. Well, that explained it. Fake feminists with twisted mindsets always think men should automatically sacrifice everything for women. Still, Penguin's situation was a little sad to see. Plenty of companies ended up like this after a major leadership reshuffle. I couldn't help but think of Anna, the way her eyes drooped listlessly, her expression soft and sorrowful. She said she didn't want to be my stain. Her eyes were dim, her voice gentle, heartbreakingly delicate. "So, no, you can't lump everyone together." David's face was once again marked by faint disgust. He gritted his teeth and said, "Penguin, they're all the same. Just a pack of snakes." I looked down and signed a document. I said, "Then I'm afraid they're going to be very, very disappointed." Chapter 15. Willow came looking for me again. According to David, she had been frantically trying to find me these past few days. I knew exactly why. Things weren't going well for her at Penguin. A ship needs both leads to play along. During this time, Willow's interactions with Makoto were stiff and reluctant. Her face practically screamed forced. Most of the ship fans had already scattered, and a group of Willow's loyal solo stans had started collectively attacking Penguin online. Penguin couldn't out-argue Willow's fans, but they could grind her down. They started lining up fast cash gigs for Willow, low-tier commercials and variety shows. Willow had originally planned to focus on improving her acting skills and transitioning into serious dramas. But Penguin treated her like nothing more than a cash cow. They signed her onto a string of idol dramas in one go. Some were clearly low budget and poorly made, but the pay was high. Penguin didn't care, they took them all. That's always been their approach. Either wear you down until you're broken, or until you give in. Willow was miserable. In just a short time, she'd visibly lost weight. She no longer had the confidence that came from being with the stars, or from having me behind her. So she put her mask back on, the one she wore the first time we met. She looked at me with desperate, pained eyes, full of regret and fear. She said, "George." Her voice was soft and pitiful as she asked, "Would you still be willing to take me back?" My gaze moved slowly, inch by inch, across her face. She'd obviously tried to clean herself up, wore makeup, styled her hair, but she wasn't as refined as before. The skin on her neck was uneven in tone, and though she'd painted herself sickly, the makeup felt heavy and artificial. Then I realized, maybe it was just because I'd been looking at Anna too much lately. Now when I looked at Willow, even her face felt utterly unremarkable. I didn't say a word. Willow just stood there, stubbornly, foolishly, staring at me. Her regret was real. Her feelings were real. Her fear was real. Her pain, too. But she still felt fake. There was no ripple in my heart, nothing. I simply looked past her. Anna was walking over. Quick steps and a smile on her face. She didn't even glance at Willow. The joy in her eyes was as genuine as ever. Willow stared at me in a daze, her tone shifting. "You came to pick her up from work?" I didn't respond. I just reached out and took Anna's hand. Behind me, Willow's voice turned sharp, overflowing with unwillingness, desperation, jealousy, and venom. She shouted, "George, she's just my stand-in. What does she have that I don't? If you want to keep her, I don't mind. I can be with you too, we can share." She was truly throwing everything away. The same proud, arrogant girl from before, actually saying something like that now. I was briefly surprised. I tilted my head slightly and saw that Anna's expression hadn't changed. If I hadn't noticed the way the hand in mine had briefly curled up ever so slightly, I might have believed she wasn't affected. I suddenly felt like teasing her, so I pretended to consider it and asked, "What do you think?" Anna didn't answer. She lowered her eyes and waited quietly, her gaze unfocused, as if her mind had gone blank. After a while, she finally came back to herself and said, "If President Wong thinks it's good, then I think it's good too." A lie. She actually lied to me. This new side of Anna surprised me, and since I had no interest in dealing with irrelevant people anymore, I said flatly, "I don't think it's good." In an instant, Anna's eyes lit up. She tried hard to control her expression, but the joy spilled out from her face uncontrollably. It was contagious. I reached out and gently patted her head. As for Willow, she was taken away by security. Whatever she shouted behind us, we didn't hear a word. Chapter 16. No one knew what Willow was feeling, but the very next day, a wave of gossip flooded the entire internet, accusing Anna, once Willow's stand-in, of using underhanded means to rise to fame. I suspected she paid out of pocket to commission the smear pieces herself. She must have completely lost her mind. Still, she knew who she could and couldn't mess with. She didn't dare mention a single word about me. As public opinion started to heat up, Alicia and Martin were lounging in my office, sipping the tea Anna had brewed for me. Alicia said, "What a terrible move. I never realized she was this dumb before." Martin, focused entirely on tasting the tea, said calmly. Anna's been progressing steadily. That desperation is showing. Alicia scoffed. What's there to be desperate about? People online are calling her Little Willow. It's not like she's going to overtake the original anytime soon. Martin gave a faint smile. She couldn't before. Now she can. Just then, David walked in with a data report and said, "The Moon's premiere rating just broke 3. On the tablet screen in front of me, a heroine in snowy white robes moved like a dream, graceful, ethereal, light as air. She skimmed the crowd with barely a touch, like a dragonfly on water. She turned her head, gaze bright as stars, lips curved in a soft smile, and said, 'Aurora, present.' In an instant, the live comments flooded the screen, so dense the subtitles vanished. All you could see was, 'So cool, so cool, so cool.'" Martin gave a succinct assessment. "Good performance. Glad I signed her up for all those classes." Alicia made a sound of surprise. "She really is gorgeous. Looks a bit like Willow, but totally different vibe." President Wang, "You've been watching the Moon this whole time?" I said. "I promised. I had promised Anna I'd watch her show, so I squeezed it in during a small meeting. To be honest, the moment I saw the opening, I knew Anna had already won. Aurora was an incredibly likable character, brilliant, skilled, born in hardship but untainted by it. Unlike the typical, strong female leads in today's shows, who posture like queens but constantly demand the male lead to serve them, Aurora fought shoulder to shoulder with her partner. They grew together. With dramas shifting direction these days, her kind of role was exactly what the market wanted. As for Willow, her own idol drama, Romantic Encounter, had also aired that week. Its first episode couldn't even crack a 1.0 rating. Alicia opened the premiere and, watching as she spoke, said, "Did Willow get some tweaks done? She looks rough." "Not just a little. Probably from being squeezed dry by Penguin these past few weeks. She looked completely worn down. Even with the strongest filters, the camera couldn't hide her exhaustion." The comparison between the Moon and Romantic Encounter was brutal. The data was an absolute slaughter. Martin chuckled softly. "The tides turned. After tonight, who's the real stand-in? Hard to say." Alicia clapped her hands, laughing with glee. "You're all so evil, but I love it," Martin said. "This is nothing. Our boss still has his next move lined up." "Penguin, right? Taking without asking is theft, and a thief who steals from us. We don't stop until their bones crack." David frowned slightly at Martin's tone, clearly disapproving. He gave him a subtle look, as if to say, "Tone it down." I took a sip of tea and said, "Things that are stolen, if I say I don't want them anymore, then they're worthless, and a worthless thief is nothing." Of course, that was a lie. Something stolen, before it's taken, might be a precious gem, but once it's stolen, all it can ever be is a stone, because I'm not a generous man. That night, public opinion flipped. Anna and Willow's performances in their respective shows were night and day. Major influencers started posting, sarcastically questioning, who's the real stand-in now? Some drama-loving content creators even compared their performances frame by frame, editing the two women into side-by-side clips. The result? Absolutely brutal. Even though Penguin and Willow's most loyal fans were raging, one fact couldn't be changed. Anna was officially famous, and not just any kind of fame. She rose by stepping over Willow, drawing in her fans, and igniting her own star with a bang. Chapter 17. Taking down Penguin turned out to be even easier than I imagined. While Willow's and Anna's fans were locked in an all-out war online, Penguin didn't even notice that the Stars had quietly lined up its new drama schedule, matching theirs perfectly, show for show. Every drama Penguin released during that period was crushed by the Stars' counterpart, without a trace left. Just like the difference between the Moon and Romantic Encounter. When Penguin launched a historical drama, the Stars launched a historical drama the same day. When Penguin released a modern romance, the Stars released one too. When Penguin dropped a fantasy wuxia show, the Stars dropped theirs alongside it. The Stars had a ton of projects, endless capital, and put quality first. So, in every genre, Penguin's shows were utterly eclipsed. Their ratings so abysmal that they barely registered. Their performance was so dismal they didn't even dare include the numbers in internal reports. Stock prices plummeted. It was a complete rout. A swift, brutal, overwhelming defeat. Streaming platforms began treating Penguin like a plague, turning down multiple partnership proposals. Truth be told, Penguin's productions weren't completely trash, but comparison is the sharpest blade. When placed side by side with the Stars' big budget, high-polish releases, even their primetime shows, Penguin didn't stand a chance. They were crushed into dust. Penguin couldn't hold out any longer. Or rather, Sophia couldn't. She sent people to feel out the situation, but David politely sent them away. She never even got to see me. At this point, the entire industry saw it clearly. Penguin had offended me. The Stars went all in, sparing no expense, using the most direct, Heavy-handed method. We burned through half of Penguin's investment projects and left them bleeding. In less than a month. As the stars kept dropping new trailers timed to align perfectly with Penguin's launches. Penguin's internal factions finally collapsed. Members of rival factions came to meet with me. No one knew the details of those conversations. Only that afterward, the stars reported a large outflow of funds, suspected to be used to acquire Penguin shares. Sophia broke. She came to me, begging for peace, apologizing over and over. Saying how hard things had been for her. Saying she was just a girl. Asking me not to hold it against her. I replied with a flat tone, a faint mocking smile. A girl. Huh? President Bai, you're in your 20s. Still calling yourself a kid, don't you think that's a little ridiculous? Sophia's face stiffened. She pressed her lips together, silent. I sat back, perfectly composed, watching her performance in full. Then I tossed a folder onto the table. Take a look. Sophia didn't understand at first, but the more she read, the paler her face became. Her lips trembled. Then with a loud thud, she dropped to her knees. There wasn't anything special in the folder, just solid evidence of Penguin's illegal activities. I'd used a few tactics to get it from Makoto. The guy was trash, ambitious and scheming. After tricking Willow into getting close to him, he secretly took photos of them kissing, among other things. Then teamed up with Sophia to pull off their plan. I said, Miss Lin, you know exactly what this folder is worth. My advice, retire early, before you get burned. 1 hour later, Sophia left the stars looking like a ghost. Penguin had officially changed hands. Chapter 18. At the end of June, the Moon was nominated for the Golden Screen Awards, private setting, with references to categories like Best Drama, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Scriptwriting. Sophia's resignation didn't cause much of a stir. I didn't have the time or interest to clean up such a mess. I picked up a few promising artists and projects I had my eye on, then handed the rest over to my cousin to sort out, and she definitely held a grudge, completely ignored Willow as if she didn't exist. Very soon, the woman I had once lifted into stardom with my own hands began to fade from public conversation, her presence dwindling into irrelevance. She tried everything to reach me, registering countless new phone numbers to call, but the difference in our social status was now too great, and I'd already instructed that she not be allowed near me, so no matter what she did, she never saw me again. Her contract with Penguin Entertainment further restricted her freedom. No one dared offend the stars, and so, no one was willing to take the risk of signing her. She was trapped at Penguin. The entertainment industry replaces people in the blink of an eye. Now, Anna had taken Willow's place at the top of the food chain. And not just that, thanks to the Moon, she had won both Best Newcomer and Best Actress at the Golden Screen Awards, a meteoric rise, complete stardom. At the award ceremony, Anna walked on stage holding her thermos. She said, I want to thank someone. He is my moonlight, and my benefactor. The silver initials on the edge of the cup shimmered faintly. I applauded from the audience, unable to stop the subtle ripple in my emotions. But in the end, all I told her was, you don't have to mention me. I don't need anything in return, because investing in her had already given me nearly 100-fold return. That was the truth. Anna smiled at me. It wasn't a wide, joyful smile, but her eyes held that same unplaceable, glistening emotion. She said, I just wanted to leave behind some trace that I once stood by your side. I asked, what? She smiled gently and said, I see the bright moonlight cast upon the beams. I do not ask to grow old with you in the years ahead. I only wish to walk with you tonight and share this moment. It was the final line Aurora says to the male lead in The Moon. I had never seen anyone in this industry perform with as little trace of performance as Anna. Unless she wasn't acting. Anna was still smiling, gentle, sincere, radiant, just like always. Her eyes shone with light, and her voice was reverent. She said, there may be many Annas in this world, but there is only one George. So this admiration for the moonlight upon the beam was always mine alone. None of that really matters. What does? She didn't say it out loud. She only answered in her heart. She looked up at George and thought, the moon hangs high in the sky. All you have to do is look up.